to do it this year, Alma. But one thing that I do love is to see people's faces. So if you are in a place and a time where you can turn on your camera, nothing makes me happier. So it would be awesome.
Great. So great, everyone. Good afternoon and evening, depending on your time zone. Welcome to the first PPCR talk of the year. We're really happy and honored to have this great first speaker, Gabriela Rosa. Gabriela is a PPCR alumni from 2018, and then she developed and went all the way into Harvard. Like she did the PCE program, the MPH, and now she's doing the DrPh. In addition to that, she's the president of the Harvard Chan Student Association and a close friend and colleague. This is the fourth time that we call her to do this talk, because for us, it's really important that you connect with our alumni, that you get to talk to them, make questions, and see their trajectory, so that maybe it could be a pathway for you, right? We want you that you also start thinking, what will you do after PPCR? It could be a great idea for some of you to do the master's. There are many options, of course, and many universities. This is just one of them. We're going to introduce you more PPCR alumni in the future. But again, it is my honor to have Gabriela here today. So Gabriela, you have the floor. I'm going to be here next to you. Thank you for
Thank you. It is such a privilege and an honor. And, you know, to be here, I was talking to Alma before we started, you know, this is the fourth year that I am doing this talk. And I have to say, it is really a true delight every single time. And one of the biggest reasons is that you guys are so amazing. You know, there's so much diversity in this group. I mean, already just before we started, there's people from literally everywhere in the world. And I think that as a research community and as we build our research abilities, you know, through this program, I mean, this program has been pivotal in my career to this point, and I'll share a little bit about that. But honestly, I have nothing but gratitude for PPCR and Alma and Felipe. So again, thank you so much for having me. And for those of you who just joined and perhaps don't know me or my style, and that would be most of you, I was just saying before, I love to see people's faces and I love interaction. So if you are in a place and in a moment where you can turn on your camera, I would absolutely love that. And if you haven't yet shared in the chat where in the world you are connecting from, that will also be wonderful to know, you know, tell me in the chat, where are you actually connecting from? The other thing that I'll say in starting this talk, you know, I always find that the journey through all of these different places that the journey through all of these different places and programs has certainly been a long one. As Alma said, you know, I graduated from PPCR in 2018. And I feel like I have done every program at Harvard Chan. You know, I've done the program in clinical effectiveness. I've done the master's in public health in clinical effectiveness. And this year, as Alma said, I'm doing the Doctor of Public Health program, which actually I'm in my second year of that program, about to enter my doctoral year. So there's a whole lot of complexities in that, which I will share. But I want you to start thinking about what questions are really going to help you on your journey from PPCR onwards in your career, you know, whether it is research, whether it is, you know, further education, whatever it is that that you feel you really want to know, especially in terms of Harvard. I'd love to answer anything that I can. And if I can't, I'll absolutely be able to point you out to where you will find that information. As Alma said, you know, this year I was privileged to serve as the Harvard Chan Student Association president, and also a great honor. You know, that's representing the entire student body at Chan. So I've learned a few things that I didn't know last year about, you know, where and who and what. So, you know, if I can be of service and I can be of assistance, please do reach out to me. And, you know, and I'll let you guys know how you can get in touch with me after this conversation. But without further ado, let me share my screen and let's get started. And like I said, just start writing down for yourself what questions you might have along the way. I'll do a short presentation and then I'm going to open the floor. So, you know, at that point, all questions are great questions. So with that, I think that you guys can now see the screen. Is that right? Yeah, fantastic. I'm just going to make sure that I can see as many faces as possible as well. There we go. Breakthrough. Breakthrough is particularly relevant to me as I help couples overcome infertility and recurrent miscarriage when other treatments have failed professionally. And, you know, one of the things that I know for sure is that sometimes we all come to places and times in our lives and our careers where there are challenges and there are crossroads and situations that we don't necessarily know how to navigate in a particular moment in time. And, you know, as I share this talk, I had the privilege of speaking at Visitors or Visit Day this year, which is where the students who have been accepted into Harvard get to come and get some more information about the programs and what's available. So I want to share a short clip and you guys hopefully will be able to hear the audio as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about it afterwards. I was at the convocation to receive my bachelor's degree and it was a split second. My name was called and I remember thinking for that little moment, wouldn't it be amazing if I was graduating from Harvard? Yeah, and immediately I crushed that thought. After that is never gonna happen. And then, you know, somehow I found myself taking a selfie with the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, at graduation, you know, and that was a real surreal moment for me. You know, it was something that I just realized because really that moment that I talked about was a real moment. And I truly remember thinking, am I good enough? Can I do this? You know, and what I've learned in that difference of time in the 21 years that it took to go from that split second moment to actually graduating from Harvard is that, you know, truly there is nothing capricious in nature, right? And this is how I have started this talk for the last 4 years, because I know one thing. I know that if you have a desire to do something, you will find the means. I truly believe that had I believed in myself more sooner, it wouldn't have taken 21 years to graduate from Harvard. It would have happened a whole lot sooner. And so if I can impart one thing, if there is literally one thing that you take away from this conversation, from this talk today, is that you absolutely have within you right now all that is required to really create the life that you envision and to achieve the success in your career that you really kind of sometimes might be a little bit timid to actually acknowledge to yourself. Has anybody ever felt like that? Let me know in the chat. Like, have you ever felt like, oh, can I? Or is it just me? Am I the only one? Please do let me know. Because if I'm the only one, I like to kind of have that, you know, reality check. But I imagine that I'm not alone, right? So some people are like, yes, I've had that moment. And so, you know, if there's nothing else, I just want you to know that absolutely you can. And, you know, this was also a really interesting, you know, today was no ordinary day at Harvard. Let's put it that way. Today was convocation, right? And with convocation, lots of things happen where there are lots of feelings and emotions that we go through, you know, as students who literally get called to go through that event. But I want to share this because I think it's a really great example.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you, PCR. Otherwise, without Alma, Dr. Franny, Gabriela Rosa right here, I wouldn't be here, and I'm so happy to be here today.
Thanks to PCR. Today we're graduating at Harvard, and this is so exciting. Thanks, Gabriela, for showing this path, and thanks, Professor Franny and Alma, for all the support.
I couldn't leave that one out today, Alma. That's a little surprise for you and for Felipe. You guys, like honestly, what you guys do and how you usher the way and the support that you give, like honestly, it's second to none. And I've done a lot of programs at Harvard, so I can tell you that that is absolutely true. Like what you guys get through PPCR is just incredibly outstanding. And I mean that with every breath. So Alma, thank you.
I'm without words right now, almost crying.
And Felipe as well, for but yes, Alma, please share.
Yeah, I mean, we believe our students, all of you are amazing and that you can make it. And that's our work, helping you no more than believing it, but actually pushing you to do it. If this is your path and your passion, you will have our support to do it. And then seeing this beautiful day for all those students is priceless, really priceless. So yeah.
So yes, next year I have to go to another graduation, Alma, to find the next students who are graduating from PPCR. But you see, that's really what it comes down to. This was the moment that I decided from PPCR. So this was actually the writing workshop that you guys have access to in July. And you will see that I look very different in all of the photos because a lot of time has passed. But the reality of it is that nothing really has changed in terms of like that decision, that moment, it really triggered something quite special. And I remember being at as you can see, I have my lineage, which is the PPCR lineage in that photo. And I remember actually thinking at that moment, going, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. And I knew at the time that I was in the workshop, in the writing workshop and the biostatistics workshop that you guys have in July, I knew it was going to be a long path. I knew it was going to be a 6-year or so path, 6 to 7 years. But in that moment, I actually said to myself, time will pass anyway. Right. So I might as well be doing something that I'm inspired by. And I absolutely am so grateful that I heard that in a conversation and went for it, because now I am, I'd say 5 years out of the 7, through. And I can say that I absolutely do not regret it. It has transformed me as a professional, as a person, as a everything that I am, a mom, a partner, it's been such an immensely fulfilling journey. And it has taught me that I've had to actually do things also in very different ways if I was going to make it through. But, these were the moments, those decision moments that they come and they go very quickly. And if we don't grab onto them, life passes us by and we kind of are left wondering, well, what if I did? I never wanted to have that feeling. I never wanted to have this sense of, oh, what if I went for it? So I went for it because in my mind, it's better to actually feel like, oh, yeah, okay, I went for it and it wasn't exactly what I wanted or exactly how I wanted it to be, but I did it, right? And so that for me was a really powerful decision. Just as a way of profession and just a brief introduction, I've been doing this work for a very long time. We help couples, like I said, overcome infertility and recurrent miscarriage. We've done work that has reached over 140,000 people in more than 111 countries. And through my journey, I have learned a whole lot. I'm a published author. I have, written many books. Actually, I'm up to my 6th book right now. And I haven't updated this part of the talk, Alma. It will be for next year. But basically, that has very much been a part of my journey, none of which was more momentous for me than being able to put together this scientific abstract. And this was the practicum project of my MPH. And it was where we really went to analyze the actual evidence and really what we've observed over a 7-year period for the patients in my clinic. And it was about 544 patients, and live birth rate was 78.8%. And, you know, people typically who have done lots of different types of treatments and nothing had worked. Now, without doing PPCR and then PCE and then my MPH and being forced and pushed to be able to deliver a quality product, scientific product, that probably would not have happened, right? This would have not have happened. And the amount of evidence that we are able to produce, because we now know, you know, I now know how to collect data, how to analyze data, how to report data. It really has transformed my ability to make even more of a difference in the world. And so for me, that was something that was really relevant, very important. And I really wanted to kind of acknowledge that, you know, this journey and this path, as you go through it, sometimes it feels like, you know, is this making a difference? You know, like, is this the right path? Is this the right way? The truth is, if we go back to, you know, the very beginning of this conversation, if you have a sense within you that there is something you want to do, you see, let me ask you this question. Who here would like to be a basketball player in the NBA? Are there any hands in the room? Let me know in the, okay. So let me know in the chat, how many of you want to do that? Right? The reality of it is that there are not many people in this room who are even remotely interested in that. Right? Now, those of you who are, go for it. I commend you, you know, for your determination and vitality to want to get that done. But if I said to you, would you like to be an awarded scientist? How many hands go up in the room? Give me a show of hands. Let me know in the chat, right? How many of you actually feel that that's something that you want to contribute to, that it's a calling? Many more of you have put your hand up for that. So the truth is that there is so much contribution, and even in the similar areas of research, there are so many unexplored areas. So don't ever think that, you know, compare yourself to somebody else and say, oh, I'd like to be doing that, but, you know, there's already somebody else doing it. Guess what? Your special flavor of how you do it, just because it's you, actually brings contribution to the world in magnitudes then you would pretend, you know, you'd possibly think about it, and stopping yourself from doing something because you're looking to the side and thinking, oh, there's somebody else already doing that. It really doesn't serve the world. It doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve the world, right? So I think that that's such an important thing to consider as well, because often, particularly in academia and in different kind of you know, environments, that some people have this sense of competition. But I honestly have to say, like, that competition doesn't exist. It's always going to be you bettering you. It's always you producing better work than you were able to produce 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, right? Even as I show, you know, the cover of these books, I mean, gosh, I published these books in 2008. The book that I was able to publish in 2019 was by far my best work, right? Now, should I not have put out those other books because I wasn't, you know, going to be at the level that I was in 2019? No, those books still help people. So this is essentially what it comes down to, is like, what is the type of contribution you want to make to the world? And then figuring out what are the places that are going to help me do just that. Does this make sense? Does it resonate? Give me a show of hands if it does. Yeah, because that's really what it comes down to, right? It's really being able to actually figure out, okay, what do I want? What do I want out of my life? Because like I said before, time will pass anyway. So you might as well be doing something that you feel called to. That's the trick. Now, what I want to actually share with you guys, so this here, these are some of my contact details. I honestly don't remember anymore where that QR code actually sends you. So let me just try and figure it out as we speak right now. But I think it's taking you, okay, so it's taking you to my Instagram account, Gabriela Rosa Fertility, which is our baby gallery. So, you know, you can always contact me through there. I do check that account from time to time. So feel free, if you have questions beyond this conversation that you would like assistance with, or you would like clarification with, do contact me through there and we can connect. So without further ado, I really want you to remember who you are through whatever journey you decide to go through in life. You know, whatever journey PPCR takes you on, just literally, like, the biggest thing is to be brave. It really is to acknowledge that you might have fear, but you're going to go for it anyway, because that really is how stories get made. That's how you get to be able to take a photo, a selfie with Jacinda Ardern at the Harvard graduation. So I imagine that for you guys, it will be somebody else even more amazing. But that's pretty much what it comes down to. It's following your dreams, following your passion, and you already have everything within you that you need to make that happen. One last thought before I open it up to questions, because I want to leave extra time for questions today. I want you guys to start thinking about what questions you have. Feel free to start putting them on the chat, because I'll go through it pretty systematically and answer them as, you know, essentially as they come in the chat. But one of the other things that I think is really valuable on this journey is to figure out, you know, a little bit of a backward plan of where do you feel that you want to be, and then trying to figure out, okay, who are the people that could help me get to that place. You know, one of the things that I often talk to students here at Harvard is actually figure out, you know, like, if you want to be in a particular research team, if you want to develop a particular skill, or you want to do something that you haven't done before, the biggest thing is actually figuring out, okay, who can I add value to that is going to help me do just that? Don't think in terms of, you know, oh, what can I get out of this? Or, you know, I want to connect or network with this professor. What can I get from them? What will they give me? Actually, think about it in the complete opposite way. Think about it in like, okay, what are the skills that that person is going to benefit from having? And what skills do I have that could benefit them? And then literally propose them from that perspective, and you will see that you will be so much more effective at being able to collaborate and network and reach places that you would not have otherwise if you approached it from a different perspective. You know, so really figuring out, you know, who are the people. And Catalyst, by the way, Catalyst is a website at Harvard. So if you type on Google Harvard Catalyst, and in fact, it is, I'm going to put it on the chat just to make it easy. So it's one S. So Catalyst, Catalyst. You will be able to search by topics, by fields of research, by areas and departments, and you will find the people within Harvard who are doing, thank you very much, Dolly, for putting it on the chat. You will be able to find the people who basically are doing the kind of research that you're interested in. And then you can go to them and say, right, how can I be of assistance? You know, is there a way to collaborate? What is it that you guys are trying to get done? Can I help in some way? And you'll be amazed at how open many people are to being able to get the kind of expertise and support that you may be able to offer and you know, that you essentially have right now. So that's something that is a little bit of a takeaway that I want you to have up your sleeve. But so far, so good. I think we have about half an hour, so I'm going to open the floor to questions, and it will be my pleasure to answer as many as I can in the time we have. So feel free. I've already seen 2 questions. Feel free to add any more that you guys have onto the chat, and I'm going to go through it in a bit of a line. So Elizabeth asks, could you talk a little about your master's length and modality? Yes. So basically, I ended up, long story. So I'll try and make it as brief as possible. I finished PPCR and I wanted to do, because I'm, as you probably can hear, I am from Australia. And I didn't want to move to the US to do my master's. And I also didn't necessarily want to do a summer-only program that I had to be here for 6 weeks at a time. I wanted to do a remote learning way in which like PPCR was. So at the time, the only opportunity there was the MPH in epidemiology. Now there are two other programs, generalist and epidemiology and generalist are the two that are online. So you don't actually have to be coming to Boston if you are not from Boston and you don't want to come from Boston. But when I applied, there was still the GRE requirement. I don't know if you guys know what the GRE is. Anybody has any idea? So it's a standardized test. It is painful, very, very painful. And, you know, if you hadn't, like me, done high school more than kind of like 1 year before taking this test, you'd have to go back to high school math and get a tutor for 15 hours a week for 6 months to be able to take the test, like I did. Because it had been like 25 years since I had done high school math, right? So like my times table, what is that? You know, like I use a calculator for 4 times 4. So joke, but yes, kind of not so far from the reality. And so, you know, I really felt like, okay, I needed to do more. And so I got a tutor and I studied and I did all the things. And then, of course, I went to the the end of the year program that, you know, is in by year. Typically, I don't know where it is going to be this year, Alma, but the final PPCR event, which for me, it was a 30-hour trip, you know, from Sydney to Brazil and then coming back. And I was scheduled to take the GRE the next day. Needless to say, despite my 7 mock exams that were perfectly within the 65th percentile, which is was the requirement for this, I scored 7 points, not 70, 7 points less than my mock exams. Now, with a mere 7-point difference out of 170 points or something like that, you end up going from the 65th percentile to the 4th percentile. And that was not good. Because then, you know, the committee that essentially assesses all of these applications thought, well, this person is probably not going to do very well in biostatistics, and it's going to be a problem. So I did not get accepted. My application got rejected. But at the same time, I was able to very quickly apply for PCE, Program in Clinical Effectiveness, so that I didn't lose the entire year. And with PCE is a third of the MPH in clinical effectiveness. So what that ended up happening there is that was kind of like, that's the first 6 weeks of your MPH clinical effectiveness. So I came to Boston, I did the 6 weeks and I aced all of my biostats. And I was told, you know what? We can see that you've demonstrated that you can do biostatistics. So don't worry about taking your GRE again. Just put that in the application for the MPH. And, you know, I think that will be a much better result. And of course it was. So I got accepted. The very next year, I just continued, you know, my program. Of course, we had this little thing, I don't know if you guys heard about it, called a pandemic, COVID-19, something, you know, that you may have heard of, that made the entire university go online. So my dream came true once again, you know, like I didn't actually have to come to Boston for all that time. Everything went online. And so I ended up doing the majority of my MPH online. And then in the last year of my MPH, it was still over a 3-year period. I think, about a 3-year period. I started applying for the DrPh program. So that was the trajectory that took me to where I am now. The MPH clinical effectiveness is 3 summers if you do it remotely like that, or 1 year at Harvard. Okay, so if you move to Boston, it's 1 year there. Now, there are other programs. So there is an MPH 65, there is a health management MPH, there's different tracks as well. So you can have a look on the website. If you just go to the Harvard website, in fact, today I had the shock of my life. I asked ChatGPT, what size bag am I allowed to take to convocation? And it gave me the exact answer. So you probably could go to ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, tell me about all of the different MPH programs at Harvard, and it will give you an excellent summary without you having to look through a million pages on the website. So that's just a little pro tip for you that might support your journey. But I think that question is probably answered. Is that right? Let me know if it is. If there's more, happy to. Okay, great. Happy to answer anything else there. So Newton asks, how am I able to join Harvard's master program and raise my family at the same time? With a great difficulty, with a lot of challenge is how you do that. I have to say, like, I, have a very supportive partner in terms of raising my children, and it was not without its challenges. I can tell you that. I have two kids, 11 and 8. They're actually this year going to be 12 and 9, but when I started this, they were 3 and 6. So, it's definitely one of those things that there's a lot of challenge, and there's certainly a lot of difficulty. And for the DrPh program, the decision that we ended up making was that I was going to move to Boston and just commute back and forth, and my kids visiting and, all of that. So I actually am living away from my kids at this point to complete this program. So, there's a lot of different complex situations that go on. I have, I'm so fortunate. My parents are amazing. Their dad is amazing. And, we're managing, but with a lot of difficulty. It's not, a slam dunk, let me tell you that. But that's the reality. And, as far as work and, all of those types of things, I mean, obviously there are different ways to do it. Like, for example, in a situation like this, where there might be challenges where you still have to work and raise your family and you're wanting to study, an online option might be a really good thing. Like the MPH generalist might be great, or the MPH epi might be really useful, because then you're studying, but you're at home and you're not having to have the extra, the additional expenses that are involved with having to pay for your degree, as well as moving countries or cities, or, that is definitely something that can make things a little bit easier. But let me know, Newton, if that answers your question, or if you have more, let me know. Now, let me go to Leandra's question. Dear Gabriela, why did you decide on the clinical effectiveness track for the MPH? What made this track the right choice for you? One, I actually didn't decide. Harvard decided for me, right? I knew that I was going to graduate with an MPH. I just knew. And because I wasn't accepted in the epidemiology degree that I wanted to be accepted in, because it was online, the next option was PCE. Now, I could have gone backwards and done my application again for EPI and would have got in. But the point was that the first summer of PCE was already a third of the MPH CLE, clinical effectiveness. And then I realized that actually clinical effectiveness was much more apt for, what I needed anyway, which was I own a clinic and I want to demonstrate clinical effectiveness. So that actually turned out to be can you see? What I want to point out with this situation here, had I gotten what I thought I really wanted, I wouldn't be where I am today. Or it would have been a different path, and maybe it would have been where I am today, but it would have been a very different path. So these kind of closed doors that sometimes happen in our lives, they often come for us to actually unveil something else that is going to be more beneficial in the long term, right? And I didn't see that at the time, and I didn't even know it at the time. I was just asking Felipe, I'm like, okay, Felipe, I do not want to waste another year. I don't want to waste a year. So what is the way? And literally I was messaging Felipe back and forth going, what do I do here? Because I need this to happen. I want this to happen. So I was pestering the poor man, like you would not believe. And Alma, Alma, oh my God, poor Alma. Alma's receiving messages from me every 5 minutes going, so where's it at? Come on, Alma, tell me more. So these poor people, they have suffered a lot for helping me be where I am today, right? So I'm very grateful. But yes, so that was really, for me, the overarching decision was that I wanted to graduate from Harvard, remember? And the how and the what became something that, you know, I kind of navigated around the way. Is it feasible to pay for the master's degree with a scholarship? Lots of people do it. In fact, most people do it. You know, so yes, absolutely, it is feasible. You do need to figure out who's going to fund you, though. That's, you know, there are different types of kind of ad hoc funding that you can get. But overall, I mean, I've seen people, even for doctoral programs, the doctoral public health program is not funded, which means that you're paying or you're having someone else pay for you. I'm paying my own. I paid for my own MPH and I'm paying my own, but that's because also for me, it's a tax deduction, right? In terms of it kind of works with my business. But for certain people, so I could say that my business is funding me, right? But the reality is that, like, I have colleagues who, you know, work for the CDC, work for, you know, different organizations, and they've been funded in those different ways. So there's different hospitals that will fund their students. You know, there's lots of hospitals here in Boston who will actually fund the doctors who are, you know, who are there doing their residency, doing, you know, different things. So yes, it's very possible and it happens all the time, and you just need to ask how else, who else, what else, right? And keep looking for different avenues, because there are lots of avenues. Is there a partial scholarship from Harvard? Depends is the answer. So it is means tested, which means that, you know, depending on your income, you may not be eligible or you may be eligible. The Doctor of Public Health program is a 50% scholarship, but it is means tested. So, you know, for me, I wasn't eligible. So what my background, I'm a naturopathic doctor. So I'm not an OBGYN, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and that's my field of expertise. What are the differences between the MPH and Masters of Medicine? Is it Master of Medicine of Science? Is that MM Master of Science? Is that what we're talking about here? That's Raphael.
Harvard Medical School, the Master of Medical Science and Clinical Investigation.
Oh, yes. Now, that is a great question for ChatGPT.
I know a little bit about it. I just know that they have less hours. We have 2 students right now there, but we got way more in the MPH.
Yeah.
But if someone wants to ask me more, I can talk about, since it's another school, right? Harvard THN is
That's right.
But if you would like to talk more, I saw those. Send me an email. I can explain a little more of what I know about those programs with these 2. There are two current TAs are there. But yeah, I cannot say more.
Yeah, so what I do know about that program, because like now that you've said the name of the program, I do know it's a smaller cohort. It's a much smaller cohort than the MPH at Harvard Chan. And I would say, you know, the biggest thing here is that you definitely want to go and look at the description of each course on the respective websites, because you also want to know, like, what are the eligibility criteria? What are the things that I'm going to be expected to do? What is the length? You know, all of those questions are something that I would say that however much the MPH costs, or however much a degree costs at Harvard, you need to budget double that for living in Boston. Okay, so that's just something to take into account, into consideration as well. Okay, but yes, I think 2 things: talk to Alma. In fact, 3 things: talk to Alma, look at the different websites, and ask ChatGPT. So those are the things that I would recommend. So I'm really excited and try to put my best into this program, as I believe that it will take me a long way in my career. I am an anatomic pathologist with keen interest in research. What are my options for a career path in research? As I'm not very confident to move out of my area of speciality. There is an infectious diseases department at Harvard, Chan, and, you know, at HMS, I'm sure there are lots of different types of departments and fields and teams and, you know, all of those things that work with, you know, just different types of research. The best bet that I would recommend here is actually go to Catalyst and put in your field of expertise. and see what comes up. Because what you will find is all of the people at Harvard who do exactly that work, right? So you will be able to actually even, one of the greatest advantages that you guys have for PPCR, Alma, students have a Harvard email, don't they?
No, not
It's
right
a PPCR email. It's a PPCR email.
just like you. Yeah.
Right, fantastic. So here's what I would suggest. Go to Catalyst, basically let people know, like email, look for the people who you think that you might want to work with in the future, email them and say, hey, I'm doing this program. I would love to be able to add value to whatever it is that you're doing. I'd love to understand more. I also want to apply for further training in the school. Would it be possible for us to have a 15-minute Zoom meeting? Honestly, go to everybody. One of my friends in the Harvard Chan Student Association, who just graduated from his MPH this week, or today, actually, he calls it Tinderizing your job search. Okay, so literally what he did was, as he was finishing his degree and looking for jobs and looking for other opportunities, literally he was asking prospective employers and people who work in the same kinds of companies that he wanted to work in and whatever else, can we have a coffee or can we have a 15-minute Zoom chat? Let me tell you, he was so successful in getting meetings. He had over 200 meetings in the period of a few months. So he really did Tinderize his job search and has found some great opportunities. And not only that, opened lots of doors and networked his, entire self out there. And he actually got a job from doing exactly that. So I highly recommend it. Go Tinderize your research, seeking of information, because it will definitely support you. And, most people will be very open and very happy to have conversations if they can see a mutual benefit, right? A win-win. Make sure, like, for the love of baby Jesus, as I say in Australia, make sure that you never say to somebody, like, this is one thing that you must never say to somebody. Promise me, and I want to see this in the chat, that you will never say this to somebody. Can I pick your brain about something? Oh my God. No. You, like, honestly, if you get nothing else from this conversation, do not ask someone if you can pick their brain. Like, who wants to have their brain picked? Let's be honest, right? And how extractive is that way of actually going and asking somebody for some help, right? Not ideal. No, do not do it. Do I have your absolute commitment? Please give me a thumbs up. See, even Zoom is like going, don't do it. Because that is the worst way. There are some really great ways and there are the worst ways. And that is one of the worst ways to actually get somebody to agree to have a conversation with you. Which is the best way to contact the faculty professor? Cashless their emails. You'll be amazed. You will be incredibly shocked, actually, how professors reply to emails. Okay. Now, you might need to email back and circle back and, but there are lots of professors, because you've got to remember, professors at Harvard, there's a way in which academia works, which some of you will know and some of you won't. But they build teams, they build research teams so that they can apply for grants, so that they can fund their salary. Okay, that's typically how it works. So do you think that professors at Harvard are looking for great people who do great work, who are talented, and who are going to help them get grants funded? Do you think that that's a possibility? Do you think that, especially as a junior professor or an assistant professor, that they are actually looking to build a team? Absolutely. That's essentially what they're looking for. Okay, so ultimately what that means is that if they can see a mutual benefit, like something that you do aligns with their interests, and they can see that, and you've put that in a really nice way to basically show them that you are interested, you're keen, you're a great, person that is very fast moving and wants to move forward in their career and can help them get done whatever it is that they're trying to get done. If you ask for a meeting, they will have a meeting with you. Like, before I got into when I was here for the July workshop, when Alma, when the whole thing of PPCR happened, I went to literally several members of the nutrition faculty because I was interested in doing more work with them. And that was a wonderful opportunity to be able to have conversations, build networks, you know, like what Felipe and Alma say about building networks is very, very true, right? So just put yourself out there and have these conversations. How difficult is it to join a work international medical graduate with no US residency? Is it very hard to work? Now, that is a question that I think there will be other talks that will be more in line to be able to answer that question. The reality is that hard is always very relative, okay? It's about how do you find a fit? How do you actually position yourself? And really, one of the other little pearls that I have been taught here at Harvard is never sell yourself short to the audience, whoever the audience is, right? So ultimately, look at it and how can you put that in the context of, in the best possible light, to figure out, okay, how else, who else, what else to help me achieve my goal, my objective, right? So that's something that I would highly recommend that you do. And yes, I mean, there are different opportunities, you know, within the MPH program to go into different places, and also from the hospitals to go into the MPH program. So there's the MPH going depth into statistical analysis and research design. Can you participate as a research fellow? Yes, you can. And yes, it does. So that will be very dependent on what types of classes you want to do. There are biostatistics, the biostats department as well has different types of masters. If you really want to do a very biostats heavy course, go for the biostatistics, the masters in biostatistics in the biostats department. But yes, it really does. And, you know, like I have learned, oh gosh, things that I never even thought that I would learn from doing my MPH. And you can make it harder or easier depending on what it is that you feel that you want to do. Okay, so that's also, it's something that you can modulate, very much so. Want to do a fellow research pathway in pediatrics, which is the best way for the next steps. So I would look, one thing that Felipe said to me very early on, I said to him, listen, Felipe, I want to do a PhD at Harvard. I already had a master's, right? So he said, I said to him, I want to do a PhD at Harvard, and what's the best pathway? And what Felipe told me, and I will move that on to you guys, is often when you don't know the professors, when you don't have networks, because you need letters of recommendation, right, for doing these things. And if you don't have the networks within Harvard that are related to be able to actually, you know, kind of really demonstrate that you have either a proven track record in, and for PhD applications, by the way, they really look at publications, right? So if you don't yet have that, you need to build your publications before you actually can go into a PhD, which means doing an MPH first. That was why I knew at the beginning when I decided, okay, this is what I want to do, I knew it was going to be a 6 to 7 year path, because I needed to build an entire different aspect of my career that I did not have at all. Like now, if you go on PubMed, you can search my name, you will find me on some scientific papers, right? You go to ResearchGate, you will find some of my publications. But the reality is that before I did my MPH, I had none. So even applying for a PhD would have been very difficult. So that advice is very good advice. If you really want to go down that path of doing more research, being a research fellow, all of that, they will look at your publications. They will look at the work that you have done previously. And so you need to be able to demonstrate that. And if you can't yet, then the MPH is a really great path. How difficult for you after many years? Oh, I see. After many years, so I imagine this question is saying, how difficult was it for me after many years of having graduated to restart my career? I wouldn't say that I restarted my career. I just augmented my career, right? I didn't go into doing the MPH and the DrPh to change careers necessarily. I'm still running my practice to this day, and I'm going to continue running my practice. I just added things to my practice and that I am able to do. And I have new projects coming up. You know, one of them is scientific consulting. So looking at, you know, like let's say, businesses that don't have a scientific arm or capability, who then basically want to be able to do research, but don't want to go and do an MPH and a DrPh and a PhD. I'm actually collaborating with another PhD student, and we're setting up this consultancy, which is going to be able to do that for other businesses, right? So this is the thing. I'm not going to stop doing what it is that I'm doing, but I'm also very entrepreneurial. And so for me, it was never about getting another job. It was about, okay, what else kind of made me happy, made me excited? What else did I feel like I wanted to pursue? So that was really the conversation for me. Does that make sense? Right. So let's see. I'm going down to the questions. If I missed the question that was up there, let me know. But I think I see another question here. What are the best scholarship funding options for MPH? There are literally, oh gosh, there are funding options in every country and in every place, and in the US and outside of the US, and so on and so forth. It's really going to be a situation of like looking for them, right? There is a great, there's a great website. I think it's called Pro Fellows. Let me just see quickly. And if I don't find it, yes, Pro Fellow. Go there. That is a fantastic place to go and find fellowships and funding and, you know, all sorts of things. So if you go to profellow.com, I'll put it on the chat as well. That's definitely a great place to go and look for opportunities as well. Okay, so let's see. I'm going back up now. Lost my place. Okay, so November, imagine you guys are talking about Brazil. Yes, cool. Definitely go to the November workshop. Oh my God, so much. I've never had so much fun with my PPCR friends. We had the best time doing our project, and we literally had so much fun. It was amazing. So I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. So any recommendations or words of wisdom for recently graduated medical students with interest in research, but also have to go through residency? Pick your battles and follow your heart, like honestly. I think that, you know, the thing about those two things is, I mean, I feel like they're both Everest, you know, one on top of the other at the same time. So, you know, I don't know, maybe if I was younger, I would approach that, you know, probably this is the right time for you, whoever is asking that question. You know, you want to kind of get in there and do everything, but also remember, sleep is important. It keeps you alive, okay? So if you are doing residency, it might be a question of rethinking your life choices and perhaps timing of doing another program at the same time, and your sanity as well, because if you're considering that, I do highly recommend that you get a psychiatric assessment. No, I'm joking, but I'm actually, for real, it's the two very, very challenging things to do, and I'm not picking on you at all, but I really think, you know, like, consider all of your life choices and the options that you want to have in your life. You know, do you want to have children? Do you not want to have children? Do you want to be able to work however it is that you feel is going to be right for you? Those are the things that you do need to consider. And I have a wonderful friend who actually was the person who put me in touch with PPCR to begin with. She was a medical doctor who decided, you know, working in a hospital, who decided, you know what, this hospital life is not for me. I have to get up at 5 a.m. to be able to be in the hospital at 6. And I don't want that for my life. So she basically went into research, and that is 10 a.m. meetings, you know. So for her, that was a really great life choice. So also consider it from that perspective, you know, like, what do I want? Do I want to be at every waking moment having to perform and do something? That's valid, and it's important. You know, it's important to consider it from that perspective too. Don't just drive yourself to the bone just because you can, is my pearl of wisdom. If, you know, I'm not a, I don't know. I think that, you know, my kind of priorities in life have shifted over the years, and I really prize peace, inner peace, you know? And I think that that's something that cannot be overstated enough, that working for the sake of working and driving yourself to the bone, is it worth it? You know, the time will pass anyway, but is it worth it that it passes like that? Do you want to be able to enjoy family, friends, some weekends? You know, those things in life are important too. You will ultimately get to where you want to get to. It might take 21 years for you to graduate from Harvard, like it did for me, right? But the reality is that, well, it's a rush. It's a long life. It's a long life. You know, one of the greatest things that has happened to me recently is that I was asked to speak at a donor event here at Harvard. And there were two professors that, honestly, they are a history lesson listening to them. I was privileged to take class with Walter Willett, who is one of the PIs of the Nurses' Health Study, and Frank Switzer, I think is his name. He's actually the person who started the nurses cohort. Now, Walter is 78 and Frank is 90. So Frank was Walter's PhD supervisor, right? Or like, you know, he was basically his mentor, right, through the whole thing. And seeing them in the cafeteria at Kresge, you know, at Harvard Chan, and I said, I know that you guys probably won't remember me, but I am taking photo with both of you because you guys are literally giants. You know the giants that they talk about standing on the shoulders of giants? Those dudes, they have shaped nutritional epidemiology and what it is today. Like understanding that saturated fat causes cardiovascular disease, like that's their work and a whole lot more, right? But this is the kind of like amazingness that you get at Harvard Chat. You know, it's so incredible. But the reason that I say that, and I digress a little bit, is that imagine these guys are contributing at 90 years of age and 78 years of age, and they're not stopping. Like they talk about what it is that they do with the same passion that they did 40 years ago. It's incredible to see. So do you need to drive yourself crazy right now? Questionable, right? But that's a whole life decision. Can you please advise medical students interested in pursuing, but also want to complete MPH? Is there a correct order? Okay, I think I've answered that. I can see a couple more questions. I also know that we are kind of on time. I'm more than happy to continue. If you guys are, feel free to leave if you can't stay, but I'm going to kind of honor the questions that were put in the chat and answer them. And, you know, if there's anything else that I can answer for you guys after here, do let me know. Is there an option? Is there okay, Alma, or do you have a hard stop?
Yeah, no, I wanted to say, no, we can keep going actually, but I got a private question. They always do this. And they said, of all the requirements to enter to the MPH, which one is the hardest? And what would you recommend to overcome that? So. Sure.
So basically, look, these days, you no longer have the GRE. Oh my God, you guys are so lucky. There's no GRE for you to do. So you don't have to go back to high school math, and you don't have to go back to, you know, like math tutoring. Thank God for you. But, you know, I think that the requirements really, the thing that you need to demonstrate is that you're serious about a future in whatever it is that you are applying for. Right? That's really what they want to see. They want to see a tension between where you are now, where you want to be, and what you need to learn that the MPH program specifically is going to teach you that's going to get you there. Does that make sense? That, like, please, if you didn't catch what I just said and you are wanting to apply for an MPH, DrPh, PhD, whatever, at Harvard Chan, please listen to this very carefully and write it down. Where you are, where you want to be, and how and what that program is going to teach you, that is going to enable you to get there. Your letter of intention, your letter of purpose has to do that job for them, for your committee. Okay, whoever's going to be assessing your application. Also remember, it's literally a 4% acceptance rate at Harvard. 4%. So for every 100 people who apply, 4 get in. So do your absolute very best on the simple and minor things. Make sure your letter is written well, that it doesn't have grammatical errors, that it is spaced nicely on a piece of paper or a page on a screen. Because all these letters, you know what happens when you have your thing through Sophos, what the professor or the committee gets is literally one whole PDF that looks exactly the same for every single person. So you might think that, like, putting nice headings and boldening certain things and, you know, making it actually look appealing, visually appealing, is a kind of minor detail. But when they are literally reading through 1,000 applications, how do you think that they discard most of them to begin with? If it's not written well, if it's horrible to see, if you haven't put in the time and the effort to really demonstrate that you care about this, very quickly it just gets rejected. Okay, so those little things do matter. Okay, so that's essentially what I would say. Like, pay attention to the details. Pay attention to the details matter. Did I answer that question, Alma? Yeah, all right. Is there an option to do a PhD in public health or epidemiology, partly in Boston and partly in another country? No. No. You look, the reality is this. I tried, right? There are 2 years for every PhD, DrPh, whatever it is. Typically it's cohort based, and you have the first 2 years of residential classes, and they expect you to be in Boston. So if you want to do a doctoral program, you've got to account for the fact that you are going to have to spend 2 years in Boston, no matter what. They are not going to excuse you. They're not going to give you the opportunity to do it remotely. On your 3rd, 4th, 5th year, you can be back and forth if your supervisor agrees to that. But certainly for the first 2 years, nobody's going to agree to that, right? 5th year medical student with the desire to pursue research pathway. I still have 2 years of medical school to complete it to graduate. Apart from completing PPCR, what advice would you give? I would say get involved in research teams, get involved in like academic hospitals where, you know, they do research as well. Get involved. That would be the best way for you to learn on the job, learn whilst you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. You will have some skills through doing PPCR that are going to be great and going to enable you to do more. And so basically, if it were me and I knew that that was my trajectory and my path, I would start now looking at, okay, who can I work with? Where can I go? Get some publications under your belt. You know, those things matter. So especially for whatever program you want to apply for at Harvard, they matter. So that's what I would suggest. All right, so then Alejandro asks, I would like to expand my knowledge on biostatistics. So far, MPH and epidemiology seems to be the best fit that I'm looking for from your experience. Could you say about the module being taught in the MPH? So like I said, if you really heavily want to focus on biostats, there's a few different options. There is a pathway through an MPH, through a PhD that you actually can do whilst concurrently doing your PhD. You can do a master's of biostats at the same time. There is another way in which you can actually do a master's. In fact, I have all of the programs that are available at Harvard at my fingertips right now, but I'll tell you what the ones, yeah, so biostatistics department offers a master's of science. There's a computational biology and quantitative genetics master of science. There's a master's in healthcare management. There's an environmental health masters of science and epidemiology masters of science. Let me see what else. Global health and population masters of science. Health data science masters of science. Health policy and management masters of science. Social and behavioral sciences master of science. And then there's the master of public health, which is obviously the bulk of the students in the school are in the Masters of Public Health. But essentially all of those other programs exist at Chan. Okay. And then of course you have your PhDs and your Doctor of Public Health. But those are all of the master's programs that you can do in terms of biostatistics. Let's see. I think I'm getting to the end of the questions, it seems. Is it possible to do a research fellow and an MPH at the same time? Good question. And I know, okay, so if you mean a postdoc, it will probably be no, but it depends. Different people have different, different ways in which they might be able to do that. You could certainly, through the MPH, depending on which MPH you're doing, and there are professors at Harvard who will, hire research assistants from the student cohort doing the MPH. So, that's all possible. And look, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think that there is anything impossible. It's about how good a case can you make for what it is that you're trying to do. Like when I applied for the DrPh program, because this is another thing too. Actually, this is an important thing that I want to actually mention about applications and letters of purpose. The reason why you want to go from where you are to where you want to be and how that program is going to help you do just that. And it's a really fine balance, because what happens is if you don't do that well and you overshoot it, they will think that you're too qualified and therefore you don't need to do that program, and they will reject you. That happens. Okay, that happened to me in the DrPh program, where they knew that I already had done an MPH. I already had the requirement for the DrPh was 5 years of work experience. I had 20 plus. So they're like, this person, she doesn't really need to do this program because, she's already kind of done the things that she wanted to do. But I knew that I wanted to career pivot. So I also felt it's not up to them to tell me. It's up to me to decide that I want to do the thing and I want to pay the money. So, so that for me was something that I learned along the way as well, is that you don't want to overshoot. You really want to keep that nice tension, because if you also undershoot it, they will think like, well, this person, are they going to be a good enough student for the school and what the school is trying to achieve? So there is definitely that fine balance that you want to achieve there. But the reason that I mentioned that is based on this question. If you are a research fellow wanting to do an MPH, can you make a good case for that? Because when it came down to me being waitlisted, I went to every single person that had interviewed me, the director of the program, the associate director of the program, literally asking questions like, hey, I'm going to reapply if I don't get in. Is there anything that you can recommend that will strengthen my application for next year? By the way, I also have a student visa already in my passport and the funding that I need. So I'd love to have that spot that comes up, in the waitlist. So that's essentially, by being persistent, is actually how I ended up getting in the year that I did and not having to do an entire application once again, right? So you can see my journey was by far not straightforward, right? From rejection letter to doing PCE to doing the MPH to getting waitlisted, but if you really truly want it, you will go for it. And that's really what matters. What is the adequate time frame to send a follow-up email if you get no reply? Oh, I love that. And how many emails are too many for one investigator? Look, my take on that. My take on that is this. You want to be just eager enough to not be labeled a pest, but be willing to. Okay? So here's the thing. The thing about it is this. Think about it from this perspective. I always look at it as a sales process, right? A sales process requires many touches and many kind of connections and little conversations to be able to get there. So it depends on how much you want that particular person to basically reply to you or get to know you. And one of the ways that you do that is not necessarily by sending follow-up emails about something that you want. If you follow that person and you know what they're interested in and you see something interesting that they may not have seen, like there might be an article in the New York Times, or there might have been a brand new published paper that they may have seen, but you don't know, but it's exactly in their area of research. And you say, hey, just wanted to touch base and let you know I saw this and I immediately thought of you. There you go. So my ratio is that you want to give 3 touch emails for a follow-up email. If you are trying to court somebody for long term, right? In that theme of Tinderizing your job search or your application search, right? You don't want to be a pest. You want to be helpful and, be able to give good information or, supportive evidence or whatever it is that, you're doing for that person. If you know that there's something that will be interesting for them, absolutely, by all means, send it like that. Now, if you've sent an email and you'd like to meet with somebody and they have not necessarily answered, yes, they are busy. They are busy. But then I would also approach it in a different way. Who do you know who knows that person who could introduce you? And if you've actually spoken to someone, if you've had one of those Zoom dates or Zoom conversations or coffee conversations, and, at the end of the conversation, you may ask, who else do you feel that might be really useful for me to talk to along these lines? And they will give you names. And you can also ask, would you be able to give me an introduction to that person? See, that way, the more warm introductions you actually get, the better. So I don't think that there is ever too many. It's just too many of the wrong ways of approaching, perhaps. There's always, if you can apply behavioral flexibility around how you're actually approaching someone. Think about it. The people who are most valuable in your life are the people who bring you things that are of interest to you, that can be helpful, that, all of that. Be that person. Be that person. So there's not too many in of those people, right? So that's something to take into account. Yeah, and every choice is 1,000 renunciations. And that is so true. There is an absolute opportunity cost for doing a degree, any degree. But is the price that you have to pay worth the return on investment of that time? You also have to answer that question. Right. And usually for the things that we choose to do and that we're passionate in pursuing, that we will continue to pursue, the answer is yes, because otherwise you wouldn't do it. Think about it. Why are you doing PPCR? Because you think that the benefit of doing it outweighs the cost of doing it, the cost of time, effort, energy, money, all of it. The acceptance rate is 4%. Yes. All right. I think, have I answered all the questions? Oh, yeah, I think I have. Yes, I think I've made it to the end of the questions. Now, thank you everybody for your time, your attention. I know that we went a little bit over time, but more than happy to connect. As I said, if I can put you in the direction of, where you want to be, I'm very happy to do so. And I hope that some of the things that I have shared with you have sparked your excitement, for what's next on your career journey. That's certainly, my hope for you and for this talk. So thank you.
So great. I believe everybody's saying thank you and great comments as always. Gabriela, thank you for bringing this passion to them, right? Showing them that it's possible and talk about your experience, which has been, as you said, it's not a straight line. And many of our talkers say the same. It's not what you plan is going to happen. It will be great if it is, but sometimes things can come on your way. But don't put it as don't look at it as something bad. Yeah, I believe that sometimes something greater can come. And I just remember one story of one applicant before. She really badly wanted to be in Harvard, and she got rejected. But actually, then she found an AI program in Cornell, and she loved it, and she went there. You see, so yeah, that was actually what she was looking for. So don't don't feel it's the only option. We got many great programs, of course. We're gonna talk with many people with other pathways and experiences. There are also, just to add a little bit, there are scholarships per country, guys. So the Fulbright one idea. For Brazilians, we got the Lehman Foundation, the Foundation Emilia. That's another one that other PPCR alumni have taken before. And then many people from Mexico have done the Fulbright. Then they have the Harvard Association in Mexico that also help them. Yes, and so on. So we can also help you out in that regards. Let me know. I know a little bit about that, so we can guide you. But of course, it's always important that you reach out to the Harvard's admission office. I send you the curriculum. You gotta see what program fits best for you. Also, you can also take electives from other programs, which is great. So it's not like you are just added to your program, right? You can take classes from other programs and so on. So wonderful. Thank you so much, Gabriela. We really enjoy your talk. The group here is also really thankful for that. We're gonna see you again next week, actually, for another PPCR talk, and that will be about the research fellowship track. And just like that is Manuel Castillo, who is now he's also PPCR alumni, but he actually stayed as a research scientist in Harvard. He did the MPH too, but also is working mainly in surgery trials in Boston. So we're gonna see you, and if you want to
Amazing.
go to the office
Amazing. So
hours,
much talent.
yes, exactly. And we have the office hours happening right now. Some of them left. That's why you see the room right now a little empty, because they went to see the office hours for the exam preparation. We're going to see you tomorrow
Yes.
during the lecture. Okay. Have a nice evening.
Very
everyone.
good. Enjoy, guys. Oops. Enjoy. Have a wonderful time. And just, yes, be relentlessly brave. I think that that's a great takeaway.